Hi everyone, my name is Steph, this is the Novelty Corner, and this is a Books Beside My Bed video. If you're new here, I film one of these every week where I wrap up the last 7 days worth of reading, and if you're very familiar with the series, welcome back. This is my reading week from the 28th of August until the 4th of September. I read 6 things this week, plus a couple of short stories that tied in with some of the things that I read. I read a total of 1,828 pages, and my yearly reading total is 334 books. It's been a week. I'm now currently on leave for 1 week because I had this planned from the start of the year. And lockdown be damned, I'm taking my week off because I need it. And I fully intend to do a whole lot of reading in the next week. But I did manage to read a whole lot last week, despite the fact that I was running around like a crazy person trying to be organised for my week off. I read some really great things this week. I had a really great time with my reading, so I'm really excited to talk about it. The first book that I read this week was The Heart Principle by Helen Hoang. This came out last week and I received this for review from Helen and Unwin, so thank you very much to them. This is the third book in the Kiss Quotient series, and it features a hero who we have met in the previous 2 books because he's both the cousin and the brother of the heroes in the other books, and introduces a new heroine. There is a really strong romance in this book, but I would almost cautiously say this book is a contemporary fiction book with a really heavy romance subplot rather than a romance book, strictly because we spend a lot of time with our heroine and her dealing with the things in her life plus the romance. So if you're expecting a really hot steamy romance like the Kiss Quotient, this is not quite the same, but that's not a bad thing. Just go into this book knowing that it's quite heavy. So this is the story of Anna and Quan. Anna is a violinist who unintentionally ended up famous when a YouTube video of her playing the violin went viral, and ever since then she's really struggled to live up to the expectations of people. She feels like she has to constantly live up to and be the best, and it's actually stopping her from being able to play. She starts pieces but she's never able to finish them, and she's constantly going over and over. At the same time, her boyfriend decides that he wants an open relationship because he wants to go out and date other people before they settle down, which is obviously really confronting for her. And on top of that, she has struggles with her family and the relationship that she has with them. Amongst all of this, she decides to try out a dating app, and that's how she meets Quan, who himself has just recovered from an ordeal. He has gone through cancer treatment for testicular cancer and is feeling a little bit insecure about himself, and he really enjoys talking to Anna, and eventually they decide to meet up, but that meeting doesn't go quite to plan because she ends up hiding out in the bathroom because she just has this anxiety attack about meeting this guy. But they end up meeting that night and they strike up this friendship, and while they think that they're going to have this sort of one and done fling to just get them out of their rut, their second and third encounters don't go quite exactly the way that they plan either. Along the way, Anna finds out that she is autistic, and this is through discussion with her therapist, and it's her dealing with processing that and recognizing the traits within herself that can be attributed to that, and then trying to work out how that affects her relationships with other people. Quan is fantastic with it. His brother is autistic, but her family struggle, and her sister did my head in this book because she was really quite intolerant of Anna and placed a huge amount of pressure on her. And this escalates in the second part of the book where Anna's father has a stroke, and the family make the decision to care for him at home and for all of them to be his primary carer, which draws Anna into a situation that she is completely unsuited for, that causes huge mental strain on her. So this book has a lot of heavy themes. The romance and the relationship is threaded through it. We get more time in Anna's head than Quan's head, which is another reason why I think this fits more contemporary fiction with heavy romance subplot, but it was just great. And I loved Quan in this book. He is really patient. He's really tolerant up until the point where, you know, their relationship is truly tested by what Anna is going through with her family. I mean, it was just heartbreaking to read because Anna experiences burnout, not just carers burnout, but autistic burnout, and it puts her in a really bad place for a really long time. So be aware of that going into this story, but it is well worth reading. Helen Hoang is just an incredible writer. I will now pick up every book that she writes. She herself is autistic, so we know the representation in here is really strong, really powerful, and it's always worth checking out her author's notes in the books because it does talk about her story and where her books come from. And this one in particular was really sort of tough to read because she has her own experiences that mirror some of what Anna is experiencing in the book. This was a great way to start the week, but yeah, just go into it expecting emotions. And then on the opposite spectrum, I read I Like Being Watched by Jessica Gadziala. This is her new erotic romance story that is coming out really soon. It's super short, super steamy, and has an HEA at the end, and it follows Wyn and Fitzwilliam. Wyn is hired as the sort of house manager for Fitzwilliam, who is a billionaire, and Wyn is an artist and she's struggling to make ends meet, so she offers to take this job when she finds out that this guy has cameras hidden around his house. Now, she thinks he is a voyeur, and so she plays up to him because she likes being watched. That's what prompts their relationship to begin with, and then we find out later on why there are cameras everywhere. It was super short, it was really fun, and it was a great way to sort of counterbalance the really heavy book that I'd read before it. Then I read Magic Bites and Magic Burns by Ilona Andrews. These are the first 2 books in the Kate Daniels series, and this is for the read-along that I'm hosting with Megan and Heather. We're hosting that live show on the 17th, so I wanted to get these out of the way pretty quickly because I wanted some time for everything to sink in and to think about it a little bit more, because whenever I read these books, I binge read them back to back. So I'm taking a little bit of time to be a little bit more thoughtful in this time around. If you're unfamiliar with the Kate Daniels world, Kate Daniels lives in Atlanta in a post-shift world, which basically means it's our world, but there are times when the magic rises, and so people have learnt to live with magic and magic creatures and things from legend popping up everywhere when the magic is high. And then when the magic falls, technology works a lot better, it's a lot more stable. Kate herself has a very mysterious past. We know that she's the daughter of someone who is mysterious, and that eventually she knows she's going to have to face her father and possibly kill him, but we don't know who he is, and we don't know exactly what he is, and by extension what she is. She starts off the book as a mercenary for hire to help solve any magical situations that arise, and then when her guardian is killed in the line of duty, she ends up working for the Order of the Knights of Merciful Aid, who do similar things to the mercenaries, but you don't have to pay them, but you do have to accept whatever consequence they decide is necessary to solve your situation. They're super fun urban fantasy stories. They feature shifters and all sorts of magical creatures. Kate is a total kick-ass heroine in the story. She starts out pretty rough around the edges in these first couple of books, but man, she is a good character, and she's so snarky. It is just amazing. These are my total comfort read books. I love them to pieces, and I cannot wait to talk about them in more depth with Heather and Megan. Then I read Walking in a Witchy Wonderland by Juliet Cross, which is Stay a Spell book 3.5. It's a holiday anthology collection that she's put together featuring the characters from the series. It contains 5 short stories, and they were all really fun. I got this for review on NetGalley, and I'm super glad that I did, because it was just absolutely an enjoyable time. I read it for my Read Digital Challenge, the newest book on my TBR, because it arrived on my Kindle on the 1st of September, so I was very, very pleased about that. So the 5 short stories in the book include Bewitch You a Merry Christmas, which is an Evie and Matteo short story, and this is their first Christmas together after Wolf Gone Wild, and it's kind of entertaining because Evie is in the middle of trying to solve a dispute between a man who has been hexed and the witch who hexed him. There is Rocking Around the Hexmas Tree, which is Isadora and Devraja's story, so it takes place after Don't Hex and Drive, and this one features pretty much a spell made them do it sort of situation, and it's highly entertaining. Also very, very steamy. Jingle Bell Rock is the Christmas short story featuring Charlie and JJ. JJ is one of the bartenders at the Savoy Sisters bar, and his best friend Charlie has been in all of the books as well, and they're good friends with the girls. And Charlie and JJ have been in love with each other for ages, but neither of them will admit it, and this is their story of when they actually finally become a couple, and it was just great because I've been waiting to read that story. My favourite story in the collection was You're a Mean One, Mr. Grimm, which is Livy and Gareth's story. Gareth is one of the Grimm characters who are still fairly new. We learnt a little bit more about them in the 3rd book, but this one is the introduction to sort of their romance, so there's not much that happens in this particular book towards moving them into a relationship, but it's just the start, and I'm so intrigued. I really like the Grimm characters, and I cannot wait for this book. Both of them work in public relations, and they're both vying for the same position within a company, and so they're pitted against each other, and they, of course, they find themselves constantly being shortlisted together and forced together, and it's just great. I'm hanging out for the book. And then there's Jingle Spells, which is Nico and Violet babysitting Evie and Mateo's triplets, and that one is also really fun and very, very cute. And then finally, I read It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey, which is her newest release, and this one, I think, has been marketed as, if you like Schitt's Creek, you will like this. My confession is I've never seen Schitt's Creek, so I can't comment on the validity of that, but most people seem to say that it's fairly accurate. It is the story of Piper, who is a socialite and lives off her family's money, and she's famous for being famous until she breaks up with her boyfriend in a very public way in the first chapter and decides to go out and throw the biggest party ever that lands her in jail overnight. And of course, this causes massive controversy, and her stepfather ships her off to her hometown where her father lived before he died and tells her that there is a bar there that's in their name, they can stay there, and basically Piper has to learn some responsibility. Piper's sister Hannah decides to go with her, and the two of them there discover a little bit more about their history and their connection to this small fishing town, which is very much unlike Los Angeles. And of course, while she's there, she crosses paths with the gruff captain Brendan, who has lived in the town his whole life. He is a widower, and he really doesn't know what to do with this very high maintenance socialite. And eventually the two come to an understanding, because Piper is able to stand up to him even when he's being really gruff, and he also is able to pierce sort of that armor that she has put on to protect herself from people. This one was really fun. I did enjoy it. There were times when I thought Piper was a bit over the top, but that was the intention with her character. She was supposed to be over the top. I did really like Brendan and Brendan's story and how he changed and grew as a character alongside Piper growing, because they both had to find a way to meet each other in the middle. I am very, very intrigued to read the second book, which will be Hannah's book, and I can't wait for that. All right, those are the books that I read this week. In the comments, let me know if you have read any of them or if you're planning on picking them up. If you want to let me know that you're here but you don't want to leave a comment, feel free to leave any kind of fish emoji that you like in the comments. Otherwise, I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're staying safe and healthy, and I will see you in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, everyone.